A cheerful heart is good medicine. That's biblical. So let's keep it light. Let's keep it light. Let's keep it light for a bit.
Ladies and gentlemen, the BCC is thrilled to present the executive producer of the greatest show on earth, the architect of my mega projects, and the overworked captain of snakes on a ship. Please welcome to the pulpit, Noah.
Ahoy! Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much. When most people hear Noah, they probably think of the common children's Bible story version depicting a kindly grandpa surrounded by cute, cuddly, smiling animals with a bird on his finger. Folks, that was not the vibe, not even close. My story isn't just about rain, though that's a big part of it. It also involves construction, animal wrangling, and figuring out how to survive months at sea without losing either my mind or the live cargo. But what led to this, you might ask? Well, it had gotten to the point where humanity had taken to just being unrepentantly evil all the time, like living in a perpetual crime wave. Basically, old Detroit on NOS. In short, the world had gone to crap, and God decided he was going to hit the reboot button and flush it all away. I was just getting on with life as best I could, trying to do the right thing, around 500 years old, which back then was like middle-aged. When God comes to me with what I can only describe as the world's most ambitious DIY survival project. He says to me, Noah, I want you to build an ark because I'm going to flood the earth. And I'm like, okay, Lord, just one question. What's an ark? He says, big boat. Here are blueprints. I say, okay, got it. He says, and Noah, make it waterproof. There's going to be some weather. Some weather, eh? Turns out, I was in for quite the learning curve. The stakes were as high as they could be. Life or extinction. My calculations and execution needed to be spot on. So I hit the scrolls hard, majoring in naval architecture, zoology, logistics, and resource management with a minor in viticulture. I cannot emphasize this enough. This was not just a little backyard model project. This was a serious multi-year undertaking of biblical proportions. I was basically building and running a storm-proof floating apartment complex for animals. Explaining the size in cubits might not work for you metric guys, but think a couple of football fields in area and 4 stories high. Divinely orchestrated natural selection. I'm sure Darwin would have loved to get a hold of my prep notes. I became the neighborhood's that guy. You know every community has one, the guy with the weird project in his yard that just goes on and on. It was tough on the wife and kids. They ended up making a lot of explainer videos. Building that ark took years. Years. While snarky people passed by shouting stuff like, "Hey Noah, is that your midlife crisis project?" And I'd yell back, "No, it's your funeral, unfortunately." And then the day finally comes. It was like God turned on every shower in heaven at the same time and flushed every underground toilet. All the Earth's plumbing went crazy. Huge geysers, bursting banks, and 40 days of torrential rain. The flood. The waterworks were followed by almost a year sharing a confined space with my family and thousands of animals, snakes included. I was like, oh God, I pray this thing holds up and the food holds out. In between all the tending, feeding, and shoveling, we also did a lot of mourning, since every other human being on Earth outside of our immediate family had just drowned. It was sad and terrifying. Sorry, but there's no way to keep that light. I want to acknowledge and thank my family, my wife, my 3 sons, and their wives. You've heard of family owned and operated? We hauled a whole lot of feed and shoveled a whole lot of poop. Credit to them for putting in all the overtime and still having enough energy afterward for the repopulation assignment. Let me tell all you kids out there, think again before asking, are we there yet? Or complaining about your family road trips, vacations, or chores. As for me, it was an honor, but also an enormously heavy burden that God would entrust such an undertaking to me. And after years of building, followed by 1 year of insanely intense work running the ark, I had a couple of things on my to-do list. First order of business, worship and give thanks to God. Second order of business, I need a drink. I may have overdone the second order of business just a bit. When God asked me to build that ark, I had no idea how it would all work out. I'd never built anything that big. I'd never managed a floating zoo. I'd never been through a global flood. Building the ark didn't make sense until it did. Make no mistake. This world can be wiped out just like that. My recommendation, whatever God's warning you about or calling you to do or not do, pay attention and obey, even when the neighbors think you're crazy. Especially when the neighbors think you're crazy. Here's to surviving the flood. Thanks for listening. Good night, God bless, and you're all welcome.
Join us next time when another Bible legend takes to the pulpit to share their personal story. Till then, go in peace, or at least try not to make things worse.
The BCC is recorded in front of a live virtual audience, most of whom managed to stay logged in. The views expressed by tonight's presenter, including any theological inaccuracies, do not necessarily reflect any denominational dogma and are purely for comedic effect. Any resemblance to persons living dead or resurrected is mostly biblical. Rainbows, legally binding in all domestic and foreign terrestrial jurisdictions.